Hey guys, what's up? Jubitaz back with a new video where today we're going to take a look at all of the cultural references and inspirations behind the Naruto characters and concepts. It should be known to most of the fans that the series author Masashi Kishimoto drew a lot of inspiration from the world he grew up in, be that Japanese culture and beyond. And these cultural influences could be seen in minor events of the series, like the Ninja Wars being inspired by the World Wars, or more fully developed concepts like how the Mangekyo Sharingan abilities are named after Shinto deities, or how the Rinnegan is called the Samsara Eye, which is the karmic cycle of rebirth in both Hinduism and Buddhism. Now, I have already covered a bunch of these in my past or previous videos, but I figured that today I'd dedicate a video to all of the cultural references that I could find in Naruto, pertaining to all the concepts from shinobi, the tailed beasts, or even the abilities and the dojutsu. Now, there are a lot of cultural inspirations in Naruto, as many of you have pointed out, so if you want to show some appreciation for the work we do here, make sure to drop a like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get straight to it. And we'll start off by talking about the cultural inspiration behind some of the Naruto characters, and this one I've tackled in one of my much older videos about the Sannin. All three of whom are actually inspired by the characters from a Japanese folklore named The Tale of Jiraiya the Gallant, where the title character, Jiraiya, is a Robin Hood-like figure that steals from the poor and gives to the rich. He learned those principles and frog magic from a shape-shifting toad sage. And the two other Sannin, Tsunade and Orochimaru, are both present as main characters in this tale as well. Tsunade is the maiden love interest of Jiraiya that learned slug magic and healing, and Orochimaru is a former disciple of Jiraiya's turned into the main antagonist, mastered snake magic, could turn into a large snake that spews poison, and could summon and control several smaller snakes simultaneously. This Jiraiya also dies heroically in battle or sacrifices himself in some versions of the story, which is symbolic of how Jiraiya met his end to pain in the manga. Overall, the inspiration that Kishimoto drew from this story when formulating the Sannin is quite evident. And speaking of the Sannin, their sensei, the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi, while he wasn't mentioned at all in this story, his origins are elsewhere. The name Sarutobi comes from the legendary ninja Sasuke Sarutobi, a renowned character from Japan's Warring States period, which also happens to be the name of Hiruzen's father, who was a renowned ninja in the Warring States era. And it was even stated that the third's knack for ninjutsu and overall prowess was an inheritance of his great father Sasuke. It was also stated that the real-life character Sasuke Sarutobi was raised in the mountains and learned a lot of techniques by mimicking monkeys in their acrobatic or tree-leaping skills, which ties back to the Sarutobi's clan's strong connection to apes. Even the name itself, Saru, means monkey, and Tobi means jump or leap. Some people will go as far as saying that Hiruzen's summon Monkey King Enma's ability to transform into a staff is inspired by the legendary Sun Wukong, or Monkey King, a literary and religious figure popular from the Chinese novel Journey to the West, where the Monkey King possessed a magical, size-changing staff named Rui Jingu Bang. Now, this isn't where the alleged inspiration from the Sun Wukong stop. Another Monkey King, the four-tailed Son Goku, the king of the sage monkeys. Now, a lot of people will point out that the Four Tails is also inspired off of the main character in Dragon Ball, Goku, and even his Jinchuriki is named Roshi after Goku's perverted old sensei. However, this is somewhat of a transitive property of equality, as it is widely believed that Son Goku was Akira Toriyama's modern interpretation of Sun Wukong, and Goku shares a lot of similarities with the Chinese legend, from his whole monkey tail and the ability to transform into a large ape, to the magic staff, and even the flying nimbus. Yup, it was Sun Wukong that rode a magical cloud called the Somersault Cloud at first. And now, back to Naruto, the Four Tails was far from the only bijou inspired by real-life mythology. Let's look at the most powerful tailed beast, Kurama, the nine-tailed fox. You see, the concept of the nine-tailed fox or the fox spirit is a centuries-old tale that originates from Chinese mythology but spread to both Japanese and Korean lore as well. It was believed that the fox spirit reached its most divine form once it grew 9 tails. The fox, or kitsune as it's known in Japanese, was either wise and benevolent or mischievous depending on the story. The legend also had it that the fox was shape-shifting, and in some stories, the fox spirit would transform into beautiful women in order to seduce men. And Kishimoto pays homage to this by having Kurama's Jinchuriki transform into busty women to seduce the male characters from as far back as the first chapter of the Naruto manga. Now, for the other tailed beasts, while they might not have as strong of a cultural reference as the kitsune, many of them are inspired by mythical figures, like the two tails Matatabi, which is inspired off of the Bakeneko, a supernatural cat that can control fire and walks on 2 legs, or like the 8 tails Gyuki, which is inspired off of a monster from Japanese folklore named the Uchi Oni, or the ox demon, a creature that has an ox head and sometimes an octopus or kraken-like body with tentacles that spray black ink. Now, I've already touched upon many of these in my Jinchuriki iceberg video, so you can go there if you want to hear more about the rest of the tailed beasts, because otherwise we got a lot more cultural references to cover. Let's go back to the 8 tails and shift the conversation up a bit from Eastern to some Western cultural references. The Jinchuriki host of the Hachibi, Killer Bee, is said to have been partially inspired by the hip-hop group the Wu-Tang Clan, where his name, Killer Bee, is a play on the Wu-Tang Killer Bees, the subsidiary of the Wu-Tang Clan that includes many of their underlings and affiliates. Now, this isn't where the Western inspiration behind Bee ends. It was stated by Kishimoto in a 2012 Shonen Jump interview that Killer Bee was inspired by one of his editors that really liked pro wrestling, which is why Bee uses a variety of wrestling moves like the lariat. And when he faced Team Taka, he dropped the line "float like a butterfly, sting like a bee," which is a famous saying by the renowned American boxer Muhammad Ali. Also, the strong wrestler inspiration behind his character could be the reason he strongly resembles Hulk Hogan, or even the wrestling tag team duo Brian Blair and Jim Brunzell, also known as the Killer Bees. And speaking of inspirations from pop culture, a lot of fans believe that Masashi Kishimoto drew inspiration for Sasuke Uchiha from Kurapika and partially Killua as well from the Hunter x Hunter manga, since Sasuke's backstory of having his red-eyed clan massacred seems eerily similar to Kurapika's, and Sasuke's cold attitude in contrast to the warm protagonist, and having a malicious elder brother seems similar to Killua. Now, while those comparisons are understandable, the inspiration for Sasuke's character actually comes from an older manga by the same mangaka Togashi called Yu Yu Hakusho, where Kishimoto said in a joint interview with Togashi how he was inspired by Hiei when creating Sasuke. Hiei was also the main rival to the MC, also possessed special eye abilities, also possessed black flame abilities, and a complicated relationship with his family. There are actually several characters in Yu Yu Hakusho that share similarities with Naruto characters, like Kurama, who was also a powerful fox demon spirit, and King Enma, which is like Monkey King Enma. However, the latter is more likely inspired by the Great King Enma, a demonic entity from ancient Buddhist mythology. And even the king of the afterworld in Dragon Ball, King Gyema, or Enma, is inspired by that deity as well. And now for the next cultural reference, or I guess this is more of a parallelism or comparison, is the link of the immortal duo Hidan and Kakuzu to the game of Shogi, which is like Japanese chess. It is believed that Hidan and Kakuzu are symbolic of the rook and bishop in the game. Even their names, Hidan and Kakuzu, have matching starting kanji, and both pieces can evolve or get promoted to the Grand Rook and Grand Bishop, which could symbolize how each one of them has their immortal form. This analogy goes even deeper, as in Shogi, save for the king, all pieces can be captured and used by the opponent to damage the home team, which can be seen with how Shikamaru tricked the duo and used Hidan's cursed ritual against Kakuzu in their battle. Shikamaru himself gets compared to the Knight piece, which isn't necessarily the most powerful, but is a very versatile and unpredictable piece, resembling Shikamaru's clever wits and strategy during battle. And two other characters that get compared to shogi pieces are the gold and silver brothers Ginkaku and Kinkaku, who are compared to the gold and silver general pieces that are exclusive to shogi, running parallel to their color schemes and the kanji names of the brothers. And the reanimated Kakuzu makes the comparison between them in the war arc. And then he makes a comment about how they took shogi pieces from the allied side, those being Dankato and Asuma. And considering how all shinobi are used as pawns or pieces in the games of the greater shinobi, the shogi comparisons make a lot of sense. Ginkaku and Kinkaku could also have other cultural references, like the two demon brothers named Ginkaku and Kinkaku from the Chinese classic novel Journey to the West, where those brothers even wielded 5 magical treasures including a crimson gourd, or even the two temples in Kyoto, Japan, where the temple of the silver pavilion is called Ginkaku and the temple of the golden pavilion is called Kinkaku. Now, as for the Akatsuki, there are a few more subtle references, like how Sasori's name means scorpion and his puppet Hirako mirrored the scorpion in its final form with the poisoned tail, or how Kakuzu's arm markings are symbolic of tattoos of the Edo period in Japan that are used to identify criminals, for which Kakuzu was imprisoned after failing to assassinate the first Hokage, or how Deidara's heavily inspired by the artist Taru Okamoto. However, if you guys are really interested in hearing more about the Akatsuki, then I strongly implore you to check out the Akatsuki iceberg video. We got enough topics to tackle here as is. And now, moving on to the genin teams of the Leaf. Now, while the majority of characters obviously have strong Japanese influences, there was one team in particular that had stronger Chinese influences and cultural references, that being Team Guy. Each member of that team has some Chinese characteristics or inspirations. For example, both Might Guy and Rock Lee are heavily inspired off of the martial artist Bruce Lee. That's partially evident in their aptitude for taijutsu, as well as their overall physical appearance, the bowl cut, eyebrows, and even the jumpsuit all pays homage to the martial arts legend. Also, Guy's use of nunchucks in the war could be seen as a tribute to Bruce Lee. Now, Rock Lee is so heavily inspired by him that even his name is a play on Bruce's with the rock genre instead, as the name Bruce is similar to how blues is pronounced in Japanese. This trend continues with Lee's son, metal, another musical genre. Rock Lee also shares the same birthday as Bruce Lee, and both of them even suffered a similar injury during which both were expected to never walk again. And frankly, the similarities between them are evident enough. And then this trend continues with Tenten, who has a very Chinese design, outfit, aesthetic. Even her buns are the Chinese style odango, and her favorite food in the data book is Chinese food. And moving on to Neji, whose main fighting technique, the gentle fist, is heavily inspired by Chinese martial arts, mainly Tai Chi, Wing Chun, and Bagwajang, which is a fighting style that consists of fluid or precise hand strikes, whirling and spinning techniques, and emphasizes internal energy or chi. And even the Bagua symbol can be seen at his feet when he performs the 8 trigrams technique. So it's clear that every member of Team Guy has a particularly strong Chinese feel or vibe to them. And now, let's move on to discover some cultural references of shinobi within the other great nations, starting off with the Sand Village. Let's look at the Kazekage's older brother, Kankuro, whose name comes from Nakamura Kankuro, which is a long-line family of kabuki actors that dates as far back as the 16th century. Kabuki being a classical form of Japanese theater that included all sorts of creative arts and performances, including puppet theaters, of course. Even the purple face paint that Kankuro rocked resembled that of kabuki actors. and if we were to look at his sister Tamari's summoning, Kamatari, that animal is directly inspired off of the Japanese spirit creature named the Kama Itachi, literally translating to scythe weasel, which is literally just a giant weasel with sharp scythe-like nails, just like the Kamatari's weapon of choice. And now, let's move on to the Stone Village and look at the second Tsuchikage Mu, who many believe was inspired off of Griffin, the main character from the English novel The Invisible Man, written by H.G. Wells. Both characters have their entire body covered in bandages, and both have the ability to turn invisible, though I suppose that Mu's ability took it up a notch, as he wasn't just invisible, Mu could completely erase his physical presence, which is why his name, Mu, means nothing or non-existence in Japanese. And now, let's move on to the Mist Village, where the 7 ninja swordsmen of the Mist are said to be loosely inspired off of the legendary 7 spears of Shizugatage, a group of 7 elite samurai who served the feudal lord Toyotomi Hideyoshi, regarded as the second great unifier of Japan during the late 16th century in Japan. They too were a group that gained their moniker due to the special weapons they wielded, although they wielded spears instead of blades. And now that we've gone through most of the smaller cultural references in the show, I think it's time to tackle the greater ones. Let's start with the Uchiha clan. And I already briefly went over the symbolism and cultural references that pertain to the clan in my Uchiha iceberg video, but I'll try to provide an even more well-rounded picture in this video. Now, it goes without saying that as the most talked about clan, the Uchiha lore incorporates a lot of Japanese cultural references. Even their name, Uchiha, is a play on Uchiwa, a traditional Japanese fan, which also happens to be the clan's emblem and is symbolic in the sense that the fan can be used to strengthen the flames. And the Uchiha clan are renowned for their prowess in fire-style jutsu. In addition, most of the Mangekyo Sharingan abilities are named after and inspired off of Japanese deities, starting with Izanagi and Izanami, a sibling and husband-wife combo that were said to be the creators of Japanese archipelago and the progenitors of many other kamis or gods, like Amaterasu, the sun goddess, Tsukuyomi, the moon god, and Susanoo, the storm god. The couple also gave birth to Kagutsuchi, the fire god, which resulted in the death of his mother, Izanami. Now, it goes without saying that each Sharingan ability named after a kami draws some inspiration from it, like Izanagi, the ultimate Uchiha jutsu that created form out of nothing and breathed life into it, just like how Izanagi created the 3 deities Amaterasu, Tsukuyomi, and Susanoo by himself after he performed a cleansing ritual, or like Kagutsuchi, the ability to control flames is named after the fire deity, or how the Amaterasu, the inextinguishable flames, is named after the sun deity, or how Sasuke's Susanoo towards the end of the series resembles the storm deity, or how the Tsukuyomi world always emphasizes the moon before revealing that the person is trapped inside the dream world, and the symbolism for this one extends as far as the infinite Tsukuyomi moon. The 3 remaining Mangekyo abilities are also all named after Shinto gods, or properties relating to the might of the gods, like Sarada's Ohirume is another name for the sun goddess Amaterasu. Shisui's Koto Amatsukami is the collective name of the deities that came into existence at the time of the creation of the universe, and Obito and Kakashi's Kamui refers to the overall might and majesty of the Shinto gods. This isn't even where the cultural references end in regards to the Uchiha clan. I mean, the Warring States era in itself between the Uchiha and the Senju clans mirrors Japan's Sengoku period, which was an era marked by brutal warfare between rival clans, and it is believed by many fans that the symbolism goes even further. Some people will say that the Uchiha and Senju clans represent the conflicting philosophies of Shintoism and Buddhism. I mean, I already went over a plethora of references between the Uchiha Sharingan abilities and the Shinto deities, And the Uchiha clan's emphasis on their lineage and their clan's visual prowess could be seen as symbolic of Shintoism's revering of ancestors and powerful family lines. The Senju clan, on the other hand, have strong symbolic connections to Buddhism. I mean, the Senju's Will of Fire philosophy more closely aligns with the ideals of Buddhism, and even the clan's leader Hashirama's ultimate technique is summoning a giant Buddha statue with 1,000 hands, with the name Senju itself meaning 1,000 hands or skills. I guess you could say that this comparison can also boil down to Indra as the Uchiha representing Shintoism and Ashura as the Senju representing Buddhism. However, if we're gonna talk about Indra and Ashura, then we're gonna have to dive a bit deeper into Hindu or Buddhist mythology. Indra and Ashura both originate from Hinduism. However, their roles may be a tad reversed in who the lore considers to be the righteous one. Indra is said to be the ruler of the gods, the lord of the heavenly realm that protects the universe from harm, while Ashura doesn't refer to an individual being, but rather the race of divine beings or demons that oppose the rule of the gods, with their leader called Vritra. And it is believed that the struggle between Indra and Ashura represents the ongoing struggle between good and evil. And this rivalry is a significant theme in ancient Hindu and Buddhist texts. And the Hinduism or Buddhism references go even further in Naruto, to everything that is six paths related. The six paths techniques is based off of the six Buddhist paths of reincarnation, and each pain body that is named after a path is somehow inspired by it in its design or ability. The Naraka path, also known as the Hell path, is the realm of punishment and judgment for evil deeds of the past, which is why the pain's ability is to summon the king of hell and interrogate the victim in order to pass judgment. The Preta path, also known as the hungry ghost path, is the realm of beings with insatiable desires and cravings, symbolic in the Preta pain's ability to absorb all forms of chakra and ninjutsu, like a hungry ghost with unfulfilled cravings. The animal path is the realm ruled by instinct, which is reflected in the nature of the massive beasts summoned by this pain path. The human path is the realm ruled by human emotions like passion, desire, and doubt. It is considered the most fortunate path for achieving enlightenment. And this is symbolized in the pain path's ability to extract the soul and read the victim's emotions and secrets, mirroring the introspective nature of the human experience. The Asura path is the realm ruled by conflict and jealousy, and the thirst for power and war, which is why this pain path possesses mechanized armor and destructive weapons like missiles and cannons, to symbolize the realm's violent nature and ceaseless conflicts. This pain can also develop 2 additional faces, as well as 6 arms, which is how many of the Asura are portrayed. And finally, the Deva path is the realm of the gods and celestial beings, which is symbolized by the pain path's godlike powers and gravitational abilities, to represent the tremendous or seemingly divine strength of the beings of this realm. The Rinnegan itself translates to the Samsara eye, Samsara being the cycle of rebirth or reincarnation, which is symbolized in the Rinnegan's ability to manipulate the cycle of life and death, like the Outer Path's Rene Rebirth Jutsu. A lot of this symbolism can be seen in the Sage of the Six Paths as well, who was the ultimate figure representing mastery over Samsara, as he was able to come back from death as a spirit in the Fourth War, and he could even summon the souls of all the previous dead Kage, even his sons Ashura and Indra being reincarnated into Hashirama and Madara, or Naruto and Sasuke, could be seen as an allegory to the cycle of reincarnation. And even Naruto and Sasuke's avatars towards the end kinda resemble Ashura and Indra. And now, going on to the final major cultural reference in Naruto, which ties to the sage's mother Kaguya, who is a reference to the main character of an old Japanese legend, the tale of the bamboo cutter, named Princess Kaguya, who was also a celestial being that came to Earth as a baby and was raised to live alongside humans. And Kaguya's backstory does draw a lot of inspiration from the folklore, as both beings were destined to meet their celestial relatives that would eventually come to Earth. Kaguya is also said to draw some inspiration from the moon rabbit, another East Asian mythical figure, which is why both characters possess some rabbit-like features and why Kaguya's moniker is the rabbit goddess, and she even turns to this rabbit beast after being hit with Naruto's multiple Rasen Shuriken. Now, the novelized version of Kaguya does not become a godlike warlord that wants to take over the earth. So this part of Kaguya's character is believed to have been inspired by the Shinto goddess we talked about earlier, Izanami, and even the mass white Zetsu army scheme is reminiscent of Izanami's underworld minions named the Yomotsu Hisame. And those have been all the major cultural influences or references in Naruto. Now, it's hard to say that I've confidently covered all the cultural references since there's way too many. And most of you guys expected me to come out with like a multi-hour video, though I think I've covered more than enough. I guess there's some brief ones that I didn't cover yet, like Itachi's name meaning weasel, which is a bad omen, representing Itachi's blood-soaked destiny with his clan, or how he was a double agent for both the clan and the village, and his illness being a reference to tuberculosis, which was a common illness in the Edo period of Japan that had stricken many samurai, or Hanzo and Nagato being named after famous Japanese ninja from the 16th century, or even the Shukaku being a mythical tanuki that was said to be a rival to the kitsune or fox spirit, since both creatures were seen as sly or mischievous, so both would try to outsmart the other. And even Shukaku being sealed within the tea kettle is a reference to a Japanese fairy tale that was even translated to English and named The Wonderful Tea Kettle. But yes, other than that, I think now I'm done. And honestly, it is incredible just how much inspiration Masashi Kishimoto drew from his environment and how many cultural references or Easter eggs he added to the world of Naruto. I mean, it's part of why the story is considered to be as great as it is. Now, if I've somehow left any cultural references out, then please be sure to leave them here in the comments. And other than that, yeah, that's it. I'll see you guys soon, and peace out.